Hello, my name is Dr. Sarah Irving Stonebreaker. I marvel every day at the birth of Jesus Christ in Israel some 2,000 years ago. The Bible details the amazing things about Jesus' birth. Mary and Joseph travelling to Bethlehem, angels appearing to shepherds, kings from the east bearing gifts. But today, I want us to dig deeper, to focus on the why question. Why was Jesus born, and why is this good news for you and me? What do Christians believe about Christmas? Let's get digging.
Even people who have little time for God have an idea of what he's supposed to be like. If God exists, they might say, he's supposed to be a God of love, or God loves everyone. And sure, they might mean this in a sentimental way, but even so, people who say that aren't far off the Bible's claim that God is love, that the essence of God's being is love itself, and that his actions show us what love looks like. Yet it's easy to lose sight of how strange it is that any of us would ever associate God with love. The gods of old and those of today's world religions, they're not typically known for their love. They're known for power, might, wisdom, and for being rather remote from human affairs. Sure, Buddhism preaches compassion for all things, but it assumes that ultimate reality is impersonal. In some pockets of the West, there's renewed interest in Stoicism. Well, Stoics would shrink back from the idea that any god would get involved with humans, so there's a remoteness there too. Same with the God of Islam. Allah is the source of all wisdom and right conduct, but he remains somewhat distant. In fact, Allah is so totally other that the idea of God becoming a person seems blasphemous. And this is why it's bizarre to suggest, as Christians do, that God cares. And you get an idea of how in one of the accounts of Jesus' life where he goes to see his friend Lazarus who's ill. By the time Jesus goes to see him, Lazarus, however, is dead and buried. The sisters that he's left behind are heartsore and reeling from grief. And when he sees them, Jesus is so soft and tender to one sister, and to the other he speaks words of hope and comfort. So far, this scene is familiar in its tragedy. But then Jesus himself weeps. And if Jesus is God, as the Bible claims, those tears tell us something profound about God. The story describes Jesus as moved in his gut. It's like his whole being groans at the way death rips apart lives and relationships. Remember again the gods we know. They're distant. If Jesus is God, then this is a God like no other. What's even more extraordinary is that, according to the story, Jesus is weeping at the grave of Lazarus mere moments before he calls Lazarus out of it. And yes, bringing Lazarus back to life is the official miracle of that story. But maybe what's just as miraculous is that a God with such power over death can also be undone by it. If Jesus is God, then he's a God who empathizes with us and who, as a result, you can trust with your pain because he wants to comfort us in it. He's not one to remain above the fray of human suffering. And you know what? It would be just like this kind of God to come close to us, even to be born as a baby in a backwater town, and for him to be called Emmanuel, which means God with us. Those three tiny words have monumental significance, because if God is with us, then he is for us and near us. We aren't thrown back on ourselves to muddle through life. Instead, we can rely on the God who not only binds himself to us, but who comes to bind up the brokenhearted, as the Old Testament prophet Isaiah says. This is the God at the heart of Christmas.
The story of Jesus' birth is an important tradition for many, but knowing why Jesus was born is the real gift of Christmas. Jesus was born so that we could meet God and get to know him. Jesus was born to solve our biggest problem by stepping in for us. Jesus was born so that God could come close, to dwell with us, to comfort us. This is good news, and if you'd like to know more, or if you have questions, please contact us at thirdspace.org.au and we'll get back to you. Or find a Christian friend who knows their Bible well. I'm sure they'd be happy to help too. Thank you for watching, and Merry Christmas.